People, I'm super happy right now because I have a super special guest. His name is Peter Ciancarelli, and he's an expert in raw feeding. He has a beautiful dog. He's doing research. He has a Facebook group, a really large one, and he's gonna share with us many, many important things for you pet parents. I'm Maria Gargari, and this is a special interview for our community. Is El perro más feliz, which is the happiest dog in English. So, Peter, how are you? Welcome.
Hey Maria, I'm really good, really good. Thank you so much for having me on here. And wow, that was quite an introduction. Thank you so much. I'm flattered. I wouldn't call myself an expert. I'm just like you. I'm just your average, typical pet parent. But yeah, I mean, I think that hopefully I have some cool stuff to share with everyone today, and I'm looking forward. We're gonna have a great conversation.
Oh, yes, I'm sure about that. So, for starters, Peter, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do in your personal life, and how did what's your story behind raw feeding dogs and everything you do?
Okay, awesome. So I'm Peter Ciancarelli, and I am from Medfield, Massachusetts. I'm 31 years old, and I am a full-time special education teacher. I teach kids on the autism spectrum, and I've been doing that for almost a decade. And that's my full-time job, and I love it very much. It's very rewarding. And when I come home from work, the number one priority is Allie, who has been sitting on the couch all day waiting for me to get home. And that's my number one priority. Feed her, take her for a long walk, and then make sure she has everything she needs. And then I'm doing schoolwork and trying to, and doing the Facebook group and stuff and helping people and talking to people like yourself and trying to, do that. That's also that's my biggest passion, So basically I'm here talking to you today because of Allie, who is right here sitting next to me on the couch sleeping.
Hi,
Allie. She was adopted by my stepfather. I'll try to make the story short. She was adopted by my stepfather about almost 11 years ago, and we had a dog. My stepfather's from Canada, and he brought his little dog Buster with him, a Shih Tzu Terrier mix, and that Buster was my first got me into dogs. It was my first experience caring for a dog, because I had a dog growing up, Maria, and Mindy, a golden retriever, and I don't really remember much at all. She lived to be 15 years old, which is pretty awesome for golden retrievers, but not so much. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and they were, so Buster was the start of it for me, really. And one day my stepfather showed me Allie on the computer and said, "What do you think about Allie?" And I thought she was kind of ugly, to be honest with you. I didn't have, I was very comfortable with the way things were, and I was like, no, I don't want to add another dog into the mix and change things. And but she came anyway, and she was a handful. She was a handful. So my stepfather, it was just not a dog he was expecting to have, with the behavioral issues and the medical issues. She was just really a high maintenance dog, and we weren't expecting that. So I connected with her, and I was in college when at this point, and I came home because I started commuting because I didn't want to be away from her. I wanted to always be with her. So she kind of just became my dog, and and I started working on her health issues and her behavior issues, and it just kind of went from there. And she got cancer, and it's quite a journey,
It is. What kind of behavioral problems and issues did Allie have?
So she had pretty severe separation anxiety. It was always my shadow, which is cute and it's fun. She always wants to follow me around, which I love. But it got to a point where she, if I left the house, she'd be destructive. Especially in her younger days, she'd be destructive. I'd come home and find my bed comforter just ripped to shreds, or the couch ripped apart, or the shades, ripped. And it even started to go into trying to open the door with her mouth and scratching the door. And if I tried to crate her while I went out to keep her contained and safe, she'd get really stressed out. And you'd think that she was gonna like die because her heart, it was just too much stress for her. And she broke out of the crate, and she like chipped her canines on the crate. And I came home to blood, and it was just a very traumatic issue. So I really had to, figure that out. And it was a long journey, but she can be crated now if I need to, but I just leave her out free roam because she's not destructive anymore. But it was a learning process. We went through a lot of different trainers and, but now I can take her anywhere, and I can leave her, and I can trust her. We have just a beautiful relationship now, but it took a lot of work.
Congratulations for that, because many people give up on dogs when they have these problems. And first of all, thank you for keeping her. Now, the interesting thing, Peter, is how did you do it? I mean, how did you solve these issues with Allie? How did she change her behavior, her health issues, the whole cancer thing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the behavior piece, there's different sides of training, and I'm not a dog trainer, but in order to rehab her, I really had to understand her and understand how dogs communicate and why they do certain behaviors. And we could spend the entire chat talking about that, but I'll basically, there's different sides to the training world. There's positive only, there's balanced, and which includes positive and reward, and also punishment and all that stuff. And so we went that route, but also basically saying no for behaviors that are dangerous, because if you had kids, you wouldn't, if they were throwing a fit in the candy store, you wouldn't give them everything they wanted. At least I hope not. There would be a consequence. You'd say no, or you'd ground them, or but when it comes to our dogs, we don't really want to think that way. We want to just shower them with love and kisses, and we fixate on their past, which was possibly an abusive past coming if they're a rescue. So we just make excuses for those behaviors, right? But if she's destroying the house and she's hurt to the point where she's hurting herself, or she were to ingest a piece of the couch, and then now I have to spend $5,000 to cut her open, and to it's just not fair. So we have to kind of put into perspective, like, what does love really mean? So we need to think about it. That's big picture stuff. So it's super detailed. We can really get into it, but I won't. But that was where I went with that. And I off-leash trained her, and I used both yes and no, and positive and negative, and lots of love and reinforcement, and honoring her and respecting her for being a dog. I would focus a lot on lifestyle. She ran away a couple times. I remember one time when she was a couple years old, we were in Canada visiting my stepdad's family. We were on ATVs in the mountains in New Brunswick, and we saw moose, we saw bear, we saw beavers, and she got lost. She wasn't off-leash trained. She got lost, and she came back the next morning on our porch.
Okay.
And so, right. So she's trustworthy off-leash now. I can take her anywhere with me. After this, we're gonna go for a 2-hour hike in the woods, and
amazing.
That's one of the things that really rehabbed her, is that not just the species appropriate diet, but also with the right training, and also a species appropriate lifestyle, which is something I wanted to talk about today.
Correct. Yeah, me too, definitely. So that's a great story. Now, Peter, so what's the role of food with Allie? I want you to tell us a little bit of if she was fed with kibble before, and then you transitioned into raw feeding. How was the transition? How did you get to know how to raw feed her? Tell us a little bit.
Well, around the same time that I was trying to rehab her behavior-wise, she also was struggling with some really severe health problems. Like diarrhea was the normal, and it would go from like cow patties to loose stool to like flat out just watery diarrhea with sometimes blood in it. And I don't mean to gross you out, but that's, as a raw feeder, I'm sure you talking about.
Don't worry about it.
So it was a very challenging time. She was a dog that didn't have a lot of life to her. You know, she was very sluggish and slow and unmotivated, just not very enthusiastic about anything. And so it was very sad to see and stressful. And so one of the things that somebody mentioned to me, well, why don't you raw feed her? And I had never heard about that before. So I started researching it. Before that, I was feeding her kibbles and bits from the grocery store and Purina Alpo, the wet food on top of that to make it interesting and fun. And, you know, the pictures looked amazing, right? So I thought I was doing the best thing for her. And then I graduated to, I graduated to going to the pet store and spending a lot of money on a bag of pet food to, like Nutro or Blue Buffalo, or, you know, the bag of food that's on the stand, that's being promoted in the big fancy stand, or with the glossy packaging with the big beautiful pictures. And I felt so good about myself spending $80 or $90 on a bag of pet food. You know, and it was a big bag, and I would just sit there on the floor in a plastic tub, right? And which is really terrible, you know, and we'll get into that. But she had a lot of tummy issues, and you could hear her stomach being loud and gurgly. And she would, you know, dogs like to go outside, and she loves to munch on grass, like graze. There's a difference. I can tell when she's just grazing and like trying to be a cow. She really loves that, so I let her. But then there's a different, I can tell when she's more anxious and more panicky, and she's trying to purge something up, and she's trying to get rid of it. So there's a difference, and it comes with really listening to your animal. So I had to figure out her health issue, her gut issues, and the gut is 85% of our immune system. And so many things can damage our gut, from the environment, glyphosate, pesticides, you know, Roundup, all that stuff. You know, pet food is toxic and can damage the gut. You know, the mycotoxins, the mold, all that stuff in pet food. So I had to, the biggest challenge wasn't transitioning her to raw, because the dog is ready to transition. She's ready whenever you are, but it's how do we heal her gut to make it a best transition as possible. That was the biggest challenge. And that's a huge story. But I first started by transitioning her to prey model raw.
Interesting.
Strictly meat, organ, bone. It was the highest quality. It was grass-fed because she had a ton of food sensitivities. You know, I did that Nutriscan test by Gene Dodds. You heard of it? And it lit up. Like everything was considered sensitive. You know, it was, where am I going to feed her venison and emu? Like, it's crazy. So I had to find the highest quality prey model raw meat, organ, bone, and feed her that and give it time on that. And she didn't even want it. Didn't even want food that was species appropriate to her. So for a couple weeks or a month, I had to lightly cook it, which you're not supposed to do because of the bone.
Right. Yeah.
It was ground up bone. And I had to basically shove it down her throat and to like nurse her back to health. And every day she got a little bit stronger, And then eventually she was like crazy about her food. But it took a while to get there too. And we did a lot of things to help her with that transition. But now, what does she eat now? She eats a raw ketogenic diet. I would say her whole her lifestyle is keto. Which is high fat, moderate protein. The protein's reduced, but it's high quality and very, very low carb. And I supplement that with the fats, you know, and I feed her raw milk. So this is raw milk from a local farm. I'm fortunate to have a local farm around here where I can get raw unpasteurized milk from the cows and some goats too.
That's great.
And also, I talked to I know you do a lot of, your website is about how can you raw feed and make it affordable, right? So one of the things, I think that's great. So thank you for doing that. And I went to that farmer and I said, hey, I really want, there's this dog that lived to be 30 years old. You know Maggie, right?
I know, yeah.
Well, Maggie ate raw milk and she also ate placenta.
I know, yeah. Do you have placenta there? Like, do you have access to placenta?
Yeah, I do. So
That's crazy.
So
lucky you though.
but I had to say to the farmer, I said, hey, there's this dog that lived to be 30. She ate raw milk and placenta on the farm. Can I get the placenta when the cow has, and the cows eat the placenta, but what I didn't know is that they can also choke on it, and
yeah, because it's like slimy, right? It's like a bag.
Yeah, so I'm like cutting it, and I'm like trying to, and I put it in jars, and I have like 12 of these in my freezer,
Okay.
and I just keep getting more, but it can also attract predators too. So a lot of times they just throw it out. So I'm like, I'll take it. So she gets raw milk and raw placenta. So I'm trying to replicate what the dog Maggie had. What was her lifestyle? What does she eat? So Allie doesn't eat every day. She eats probably 5 days a week. I fast her a couple days a week.
Okay, that's interesting. I want to stop you right there. Many people, Peter, many people like raw feed their dogs, but they just look into one blog or one website, whatever. So they stick to strictly what it says because they don't understand the whole picture, So they just stick to the percentages and everything. So why don't you tell us a little bit about keto diet and fasting? Those are very important topics, and I think you're an amazing person to tell us about that.
Well, again, I'm not an expert, and I'm still learning as I go every day. What I want to say is, for the people that want to stick to one website or one blog, in the beginning, it's nerve-wracking and it's overwhelming, and so you don't want to do too much too soon. But challenge yourself to learn something new every day. That's not just going to benefit your dog, but also ultimately benefit you. And that's the journey that most of us are on, is that what we learn about our dogs helps us. But, something my vet said that I'll never forget is, the war or the battle on cancer is before cancer occurs. We have to, you panic now and you can relax later. And I've seen a lot of loved ones lose their animals and their humans to cancer. And so Allie, having had cancer 6 years ago, an aggressive mast cell cancer, that was the start of it for me. So, but every day I started by cracking a raw egg over at her kibble. And then I went to, one day she was so sick that it was either now or never. I fasted her for 2 days, and then I just switched her cold turkey onto raw. And so it was like a shot in the dark, and it was stressful, but look at us now. I just, sometimes you have to, if what you're doing is not working and your dog is sick, then you have to you have no choice but to take the path less traveled. There's going to be uncertainty, it's scary, but, there can be great reward from that too. So don't be scared, reach out to people, that are going to help you, and just trust in what you're doing, trust your gut, and always look to Mother Nature, because, what I mean? That's one of the reasons why they're getting so sick, is that we're going against Mother Nature, and Maggie is a perfect example. So Allie eats poop. I'm kind of going off topic, and I'm forgetting what.
I have that question for later.
Yeah. So I kind of forgot the question there, but basically, it's the keto diet is more species appropriate, and dogs are not. The prey model is kind of dangerous thinking. Dogs need vegetation. My vet feeds a vegan diet with a little bit of tripe, but I wouldn't do it. I'm not. I get where she's coming from. She's trying to save the planet, but I respect that, but I can't do it. But the proof's in the pudding. Her dogs are healthy, they're thriving, and you see that dog Bramble that lived to be 27 years old, and his mom Ann Heritage fed a vegan diet, but she was growing the vegetables herself and really caring about the soil. It's the soil health. You're not feeding a vegan kibble. You know,
Exactly.
there's
It's different, yeah.
there's a big difference. So while I don't advocate for that, I advocate for they need meat. They're carnivores, but I think that we need to reduce the protein because protein is not a fuel source.
Okay.
It's a building block. So puppies need protein, high protein diets, raw diets to grow and develop and be healthy. But then as they get older and develop into adults, we need to reduce that protein and always, as much as you can, make sure the protein is the highest quality you can afford. Always shoot for grass-fed, organic, and non-GMO and all that. I all that myself, but it's kind of ridiculous, but I make sure she gets it. And I kind of worry about myself last, which is to a lot of people is kind of messed up, but she's my, you know what I mean? I feel responsible for everything that happened with her. So she comes first. She relies on me. It's kind of like a mother and a father with their kids, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I do take care of myself. But the keto diet it's higher fat, but there's different ratios. You know, there's one to one, there's 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, etc. The higher fat ones are more for like cancer and seizures and critical illness, chronic disease. The 1 to 1 and the even lower, the 0.5 to 1 is more for like healthy lifestyle, ratio for adult dogs. So that's what she's on. And so I practice cyclical ketosis, which is, putting the body under stress, is really what's going to help them live a lot longer. So intermittent fasting is where you want to go hungry every day a little bit, or a couple times a week and go hungry. Yeah. You want to exercise so much that you're going to be out of breath, like you're being chased by a lion.
Yeah.
You want those survival instincts to come out, because those are one of the things that we're missing today, having domesticated them. Dogs are sitting on the couch too much.
All day, yeah. Many of them.
This couch right here, it's not an organic couch. There's probably flame retardants and toxins and dyes and all that stuff on there, and she likes to lick the couch, and it's not good for her. So and they're not getting enough sunlight. So I don't really focus just on the diet. It's more about what is the diet doing in her body, and that's going to be determined by testing her blood sugar and her ketones, making sure that she's going in and out of ketosis. You don't want to be in ketosis forever. That won't be good. But if your dog is fighting cancer, then you want to be doing a strict diet and be in ketosis as much as possible for 120 days strict at least, and then reassess the situation. But for a healthy dog, you want to go in and out. That's going to be healthy. And you want to also practice a ketogenic lifestyle, like we just talked about, getting exercise. Maggie was in ketosis, I'm sure. She was getting, hours and hours. She was an outside dog. She wasn't allowed inside. She slept in a basket, which sounds cruel to a lot of people. But Maggie had very little stress in her life. She was happy. Yeah. And the proof's in the pudding. She lived to be 30. So I think that we need to we're not be confined to one idea, so it's not just about raw feeding, but like we have to, if we want to win this battle or this war on cancer, or we even, I'm more obsessed today with getting her to live longer. She won't live to be 30 because of all the issues she has that we're managing successfully, but I'm hoping with between 15 to 17 I can get that. That'd be amazing. But
and that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
And some dogs will get there easy by eating kibble and getting their vaccines every year. Yeah. It's kind of upsetting to when you see that, because like we're doing all this stuff to get that, but then they die early. But then why are those dogs living so long and they're eating kibble? And I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. They were telling me about a homeless person who was living out of their car with their dogs, and the dogs didn't get food every day because the person couldn't afford it. Right. But they're living to be 15 to 16 to 17 years old, and it's crazy. But they're happy. They're traveling. They're always outside walking.
Yeah.
They're living lifestyles that are more species appropriate.
That's right, and that's super interesting. I want to tell you something about here in Mexico. Um, let me know if I'm wrong, but for what I understand in the U.S., raw feeding gets to be more expensive than feeding kibble, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, here it's the other way around. Like kibble is more expensive than raw feeding a dog because things are more natural, if we can say it like that. You can find organic things that are not intentionally organic. It's just that
Yeah.
it's not so processed. So what happens is, when we organized the event last year with Rodney and Karen, I did a little research for them so they could know how long were dogs in Mexico living, dogs that weren't fed with kibble, okay? Because many people don't feed kibble because of, I don't know, like I think kibble was popular here in the 80s. So it's pretty new, we can say, Like my grandmother, she never fed their dogs with kibble ever for her. She even says instead of kibble, she's like cookies. She calls kibble cookies. It's like, I don't know. The thing is,
It's loaded with sugar.
yeah, so it's not, I mean, for older generations, it's not like obvious to feed kibble, And people in rural areas, they don't feed their dogs every day. That's one. Dogs are like allowed to just walk wherever they want. Of course, there are many problems with that, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But the thing is that they have access to exercising and to not being stressed, because dogs get stressed when they're in a little yard all day long or inside a house all day long. They need to smell things, they need to walk. So that's another thing. The other thing is dogs sometimes are fed with table scraps, like literally. And in the end, these dogs are living longer than many dogs that live in the cities and that live in other countries. So that's interesting. It might not be the ideal diet, the super balanced diet, but as you say, it's a whole lifestyle, So when you add all these elements, the outcome might be better than what we think. So that's interesting.
I think I like your t-shirt, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, it's a lifestyle, and also it's, I'm not as focused. Cancer is still in my mind. It's still in the back of my mind, and I think about it every day, taking her, or taking a loved one, which is really not a great way to live, but it also is smart to think that, you don't want to be oblivious. You want to know that, I mean, it's a real problem today. And so it also makes you want to do more to help yourself. So, Rodney and Karen are they're my inspirations. And I've probably watched all their videos several times, and I've taken notes. I don't forget it. And I put it into a binder. And so, for me, I'm really focused on the environment and lifestyle as well. And so I went around my house and I did like a chemical assessment, and I threw out all my cleaners. This was years ago, but I'm always trying to improve on it, right? So here's a natural, it's the recycled vinegar bottle, but it's got fermented citrus rinds in it, and water and vinegar, and grapefruit seed extract. And it's a natural, non-toxic, all-purpose cleaner. Also look at the brands in the store. But that was really cheap and easy to make, and it smells wonderful. But also in the store, they have great brands like Dr. Bronner's.
Oh yeah, that one's great. Yeah.
But I was using before Mrs. Meyer's, and Mrs. Meyer's smells good, and it's in Whole Foods. You think it's safe, but there are
It's not.
Yeah, there are ingredients in there that are not good, like that can cause DNA damage. And I only found that out by one night looking up the ingredients, and I saw an ingredient that usually it's this first sign is something you can't read, you can't pronounce.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? You Google it, and you go deeper and deeper, and you're like, oh, I don't want that. And
I don't want that. Yeah.
it doesn't kill you right away, but over time, if you're washing your dog's bowl or washing the bed sheets or their bed in every single
Right.
day, over time, those chronic low dose exposures, those are the things that we need to be focusing on too, and putting a lot of our giving a lot of our attention to.
That's amazing, Peter. You know, I like it what you said, that if you can't pronounce it, you don't want it.
Right. Yeah. Not always, but it's a sign.
Yeah. Well, at least in house cleaners and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. So I want to ask you something. What types of good quality fat do you give Allie, or do you recommend?
So she gets about a cup of raw milk every day, and I usually put that into her food. But I also use MCT oil, which is the brand I use is called Bulletproof, and the name is Bulletproof Brain Octane Oil, and it's a smart fat. It makes your body produce more ketone bodies, way better than just regular old coconut oil would. That's what I use. That's what I use for the most part, but I'll also add like heavy cream or grass-fed unsalted butter, or things like that.
Okay, I have a question, because some people think that dairy is not good for dogs. So what would you say about this? Like milk, cheese, cream?
I think that dairy is not good for us. I mean, pasteurized factory farm dairy is terrible for us. Look at all the videos online of the abuse going on at farms, the way the animals are treated, and they're being pumped full of hormones and antibiotics. And again, it goes back to Mother Nature, right? So what are those animals eating? How are we treating them? That's all important. That's going to affect the product. So raw unpasteurized is best. I think it's perfectly fine for dogs to be getting, milk if it's raw and unpasteurized, or fermented. Like Answer's Pet Food makes a great fermented goat milk. That's great for them. But I drink a little bit of this myself. I don't drink a ton of dairy, but I love cheese, right? But again, I go to raw unpasteurized cheeses from the local farm, supporting local, and no chemicals whatsoever, nothing, because it's just not going to be good for us. Yeah.
And what would you say is the most important lesson, Peter, that you've learned throughout this whole process?
I think it's just to push yourself to keep learning, and like my vet, Dr. Roman, said, panic now, relax later. It doesn't mean freak out. It just means that, push yourself to learn something new every day. So when I saw that video about Maggie, I wrote it down, and I tried to source raw milk and placenta, and I tried to, you're not going to change everything at once. You're not going to make them super healthy at once, but, it's just, don't be afraid to add something new into your routine or change something. Like with the cleaners, the cleaners. I threw out her old dog bed, and I got a non-toxic dog bed. One of the next things I'm going to do is get an air purifier for the home. I'm going to get organic bedding. She sleeps in my bed, so I'm going to get organic bedding, non-toxic bedding. When I clean around the house, I sterilize some of the stuff. So for example, Allie gets Ozone. You know what Ozone is?
Yeah.
So
I want to ask you about it. So why don't you tell us about it a little bit?
So Ozone is bringing more oxygen to tissue. So you're bringing more oxygen and circulation to the tissue. And also cancer, which is inside of all of us, hates being in an oxygenated environment. So you're killing cells, you're helping with pain, inflammation, adding more oxygen to tissue, which is always a positive thing. So you can use it. It's got, you can use it as a replacement for antibiotics too. It's been used. So there's so many studies on this being done, and not a ton of veterinarians are using it in their practice, and more need to be exploring it and not just dismissing it, or they should be adding it, because there's so many uses for it, so many applications. And almost every day. I would say like 4 to 5 days a week, Allie gets an ozone treatment, whether it's, and I rotate between giving it to her in her scruff subcutaneously with a needle and it's ozonated saline, right? And it helps her. And then also ozone gas rectally, and also ozone gas vaginally. I've helped. That sounds like crazy, but Allie had a bacterial infection, right, from playing in a pond, chasing frogs, because I let her be a dog. I let her play in mud, and she was spayed at 8 weeks old, so she's more prone to getting bacterial infections because there's something, I don't know, she's something going on with her vulva or something, makes her more prone to the infection. So it wasn't a UTI, but she was peeing like literally every few minutes, and she was uncomfortable. And so usually you go to the vet, they're like, here's some antibiotics, but you're stopping one thing, but you're going to be killing the gut.
Killing everything.
Right. So I added a little bit of, I added something called Pure O3, which is, I don't know if you can see if it's backwards, but
maybe you can put it again on camera. All right. Okay.
So it's an ozonated olive oil. So
interesting.
Yeah, it smells like ozone. Like, when you step outside after a rain and it smells like air, smells like ozone. It smells really good, and you just put a little bit on that area that's going to be affected, and it reduces inflammation. It stops the itch, helps with the redness, and kills bacteria, etc., and viruses and all that. So it's really positive. And in addition to that, I did the ozone gas vaginally with the help of my vet, and it's completely stopped it got rid of the infection after 2.
Amazing. Without antibiotics at all.
Antibiotics, right. And I did no harm. I did positive, and those are the kind of things that, like, the details matter. And going back to cancer, because it always is going to lead to, like, if there's a situation in front of you, you have to assess what are your options. Not everybody has ozone available to them.
Right.
And antibiotics are not, like, they save lives at the same time. So they're not bad, but we're overusing them.
Correct.
We're just throwing them at vets will throw them at cases and that aren't necessary, and we're killing our dogs, their guts. And so, we have to be mindful of that, and add tools to our toolbox. So I bought an ozone generator for my home, and it cost about close to $1,000. But it was something that I charged, but I paid off super quickly, and it paid itself off within a month. She got that infection, and normally if I go to the vet, you're paying for the vet tech, you're paying for the room, you're paying for the disposal of certain things, and it easily can rack up to a couple $100 for one treatment.
Wow, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
But I can do it at home as many times as I want, so it paid itself off really quick. That same week, she got bit by a dog on her leg, and I treated the spot I flushed it with ozone water to make sure it didn't get infected. I put the ozonated olive oil on it several times a day. I missed the spot on her ear. She got also a puncture wound on her ear that I missed because she's got black fur, and I didn't notice it, and that got infected, and it caused her eye to kind of, the third eyelid to go up, and she's got something called Horner syndrome, which resolves on its own if you treat the underlying cause. But it caused her eye to kind of roll back in her head a little bit, and in her pupil. It was really alarming. But with the ozone, I did the ear insufflation. I put cups of ozone on her ears.
Okay.
And I would hold it there for 15 to 20 minutes twice a day, and bring the oxygen goes into her ear canal, into her brain, behind her.
Amazing. Yeah.
So, and it reduced the inflammation. It brought more oxygen to that site, and it kills bacteria and infection, reduces inflammation, and so it caused her eye to look normal after a couple weeks.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I don't know if we here in Mexico have that for pets. For humans, I've heard that it is available, but I don't know. I have never heard for animals. So that's super interesting.
So I use it like I said, I rotate. Like I'll do the ear insufflation, I'll do the vaginal insufflation, I'll do rectal, I'll do subcutaneous in the scruff. I try to rotate those because I want to prevent lung cancer, I want to prevent brain cancer, I want to prevent pancreatic and liver cancer, I want to prevent mammary cancer, because she had her mast cell tumor was here. It was right here.
Okay.
So I want to prevent that from happening again. And so it's just one of the tools in my toolbox that I use to keep her healthy. And it can also make you age better and age well. That's one of the things that I'm more passionate about today is how can we not just prevent cancer, but extend their lifespan and their health span, and make them age better and age well. So they're not just going on that decline as they get older. You know, you're going downhill super fast. You're on this drug, you're on that drug, you're on this drug. But if we do things like ozone and, you know, homeopathy, and we focus on diet and nutrition, and like I said, every time something happens, you have a choice about how you react. But we're conditioned. In the beginning, I was conditioned by going to my conventional vet that when this happens, you use an antibiotic, or you use pain meds when they sprain their, you know what I mean? When they have a little bit of pain. Yeah. So you don't always need to go that route.
Exactly. Yeah. There are other ways of solving a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we have to, it comes with education, it comes with time. It took me many, many, many years to have all this and to really know what to do. But part of it is having a good vet that knows what to do. Yeah.
That's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, so Dr. Roman is an amazing vet, and she thinks I'm crazy for being so intense, but like he's become one of my best friends, you know, and that's the kind of relationship that I hope everybody can have with their vet, because I challenge her and she challenges me. You know?
I love that. Yeah, because it's not a fight with veterinarians. What we want to do is being friends with them, letting them learn new things and learning from them, because there are many things that we're not veterinarians, you know, so we can learn a lot from that too. I love it.
Yeah. So there's always something new to learn. You just gotta, you know, spend that time to learn about it, and don't be afraid. Like, you know, don't be afraid of new information.
That's right. Now, Peter, there's something else I want to ask. That is super interesting. What's the deal with CBD? You know, I personally have not, I don't have a lot of information about CBD for dogs. I do have one bottle that someone gave to me a couple of weeks ago. I know it's good for cancer and for pain, inflammation, and other stuff. But what can you tell us about it?
So again, I think it is similar to the ozone and in the diet and keto and all, in the sense that we shouldn't be just going to cannabis and CBD when cancer hits. We should be using it proactively. So I work for a company called King Harvest, and they're a medical cannabis collective, and we focus on strain-specific, organic, non-GMO, pesticide-free medical marijuana, which is different from hemp. So there's hemp and there's marijuana, and CBD from hemp is gonna have, it could be an isolate. I mean, they can pull chemicals out, which is not what you want. You want the entire molecule, CBD derived from marijuana, so not hemp, and you want it to be, like I said, as Mother Nature intended it. Going back to what we talked about with, you know, Mother Nature has these things for a reason, and we're going and we're just messing with it. So you want it, we also focus on strain specific. So certain strains of marijuana that are going to be good for critical illness, that we found to be good for critical illness, like cancer, autoimmune, epilepsy, etc. But in a lot of states, it's not legal to get. So, you know, I'm not condoning, I'm not saying do this or do that, but in everything I'm saying here, I still want people to talk to their vet and do their own research. But a lot of what I'm doing, I didn't talk to my vet about. I just did my own research, and my gut said to me, this is what you should do. And so I acted on it, but I was always careful and made sure I was responsible about doing it. You know, we can't always wait for the green light from somebody else to act, because if your dog's dying we don't always have time. So you have to you're kind of on your own a little bit. My vet doesn't have hours and hours and hours in a day to sit down with me and research everything. It's kind of on me. So you kind of have to take that leap of faith. And if you know something could be beneficial, and you do your research and you go out, you reach out to a trustworthy company like King Harvest, then you have access to good medicine that's going to be healing to you, but it might not always be legal in your area. So that comes down to, what do you want to do? Do you just like the rabies vaccine? Rabies vaccine kills dogs. We're overdoing it is what I mean. But it's the law. So if the law,
it's a problem. Yeah.
If the law means, if it means if you have to kill your dog because it's the law, are you going to do it? I hope not. No.
Yeah.
So if something beneficial to you can save your dog or help your dog be healthy or save them and give them quality of life, are you going to do it? I hope so. So that's kind of where I want people to start thinking, is that don't get so scared about, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. And, I'm not condoning breaking the law, but you have to also realize, where are these laws coming from too?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's all about control and money, and we need to be their voice. We need to be their voice and their advocate. So if you're not harming anybody and you're not hurting anybody, then why the hell not,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So I use tinctures, CBD, I use THC. These are infused with coconut oil. I also use something called full extract. It's more concentrated, more potent, can have a lot higher THC. So the dog, Allie's high every night. She's high.
Basically. Yeah.
And a lot of times I am too, because it feels good. It's good for you. But it's not just about being high. It's about what
benefits. Yeah.
Really, 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 really good pain relief, right? You can give yourself the munchies. You can stimulate your appetite. You can sleep better. You can make yourself be more active, and where if you're sluggish or whatever, a lot of people have fatigue, and which can be from many different things, but it can make you want to be more active, make you positive and optimistic and happy and laugh, and reduce inflammation with CBD. So the real magic happens when you combine CBD and THC in your body. Something called the entourage effect happens. You and I both, and your dogs and Allie, we have something inside of us called an endocannabinoid system.
Okay, so, I've heard of that, yeah.
When you combine CBD and THC, when it's properly made, of course, and it can be good for you. It's going to stimulate that endocannabinoid system and cause the entourage effect, which basically means it's going to bring your body back to balance, back to homeostasis. And that's the real magic right there. So it's not just about getting high. It's not just about your THC. You need both. And I think with CBD from hemp has its place, good quality hemp, but for critical illness and cancer, and just in my opinion, to be proactive and be well, you need marijuana, and it's hard to get for a lot of people, but everybody has access if you look. But I'm not suggesting go to the guy down the street and get do your research. It's out there.
Yeah, there's access for medical reasons in certain areas, certain cities. So that's super interesting, Peter. Well, I finally want to ask you, what's the message, the most important message you can give pet parents in general?
I think it's just, I was thinking about this today, Maria, because I really want it to make an impact, but raw feeding is important, no doubt. What we put into our bodies can help or harm us. Food is medicine. So we need to really be honoring the dogs for who they are as a species. I don't look at her, of course, her name is Allie, right? But Allie was her name given to her by a human. But even further than that, she's a dog, a canine, and she's an animal. And then even deeper than that, she's bacteria. We're all bacteria. So that we need to really understand, and also really honor them for who they are as a species, and give them what they need, which is raw food, a species appropriate diet, but also focus on species appropriate lifestyle and focus on the environment too, really, really heavily, because it's not just going to benefit them, but it's going to benefit, us as well. It's going to make us think about what we put into our bowls as well and what's in our environment. And it's just going to give us more time with our loved ones and, healthy, good quality time, but also, just don't stay in one box, expand your mind, really expand your mind. Like, look at the oldest dogs in the world, what they were eating, their lifestyle. Maggie, Jake Perry, the 85-year-old plumber from Austin, Texas, who had the world's oldest cats, 35.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, Jake Perry is an 85-year-old plumber from Austin, Texas, and he broke the Guinness Book of World Records twice for the world's oldest cat, 35 and 38 years old.
Okay.
And you go into his house, he rescues cats, and so you go into his house, he has maybe 15 to 20 cats, and they're all in their 30s, right?
Wow.
And when he was interviewed and what he does, I think he's feeding processed food because I don't think he can afford to feed raw for that many cats, but he's adding on top of their food, the dry food or whatever, a scrambled egg with bacon and broccoli, and so that's a good food, right? So that's a superfood. And we know the health benefits of broccoli, the sulforaphane with that can be anti-cancer and also anti-aging, and bacon, the fat as well, with the egg as well. But also in the morning, he's giving an eyeglass dropper. So he's giving like an eyeglass dropper of coffee. He's giving his cats an eyeglass dropper of coffee. And at night, he's giving his cats an eyeglass dropper of red wine.
Really? Oh my God. So Mediterranean.
So there's a lot for you to research there, for people to research, because in coffee, in good quality coffee, like don't feed your dog Dunkin' Donuts. Don't do that.
Oh no, or Starbucks or something.
No. It's probably full of mycotoxins and whatnot. But good quality organic coffee beans. When you drink the coffee, there's a lot of research on coffee and longevity. It suppresses something in the body called mTOR, and it can be anti-aging. So, Karen Becker once said that, we can, how do we expand not just the health span, but the lifespan of our dogs and cats so that they're not doing this as they get older, but they're doing this,
gradually. Yeah.
We want it to be a age gracefully, and we want it to be a beautiful process. So, that's what the coffee did to his cats. And the red wine, there's something in the red wine called resveratrol, which comes from grapes. And before those grapes are picked, they're stressed. So they're eating stressed foods. And the resveratrol in the red wine, organic red wine, is anti-aging as well, and can produce that effect in the body. But there's something called hormesis. So hormesis is something in large quantities can kill you, but just tiny amounts of it over time can actually be beneficial for you, make you live longer. It's going to put enough stress on your system and your body. So, nobody is recommending give your dog coffee or red wine. If anything happens, it's on the person doing it. But I'm doing it. I'm giving Allie a little bit of red wine a night, a little bit of
I'm doing it. I want to do it. I want to do it now.
Do your research and really research the wines, organic wines, sustainably raised. You don't want any, chemicals or GMOs in it, and you want to.
Yeah.
But I mean, today they say grapes are toxic, but maybe some dogs have reactions to it. But I know my parents used to feed the first dog, Mindy, the golden retriever, grapes. And my vet used to use grapes as training treats, and she gives her dogs grapes. It's really the skin of the grapes have a lot of chemicals on them. So
exactly, and it depends on the amount, as you were saying,
Right. So it kind of I associate it with raw feeding, because a lot of vets will say raw feeding is going to kill your dog, but you're going to have well-meaning people go to the store and get boneless meat, and they're going to come down with nutritional deficiencies because they're just feeding boneless beef. So vets will just say all raw is bad, or nuts. Nuts are supposed to be toxic, but Allie gets almonds and walnuts and Brazil nuts, but macadamia nuts are toxic, so you don't want to feed macadamia nuts. But they say all nuts are bad. And garlic is supposed
garlic is, it's great in small quantities.
In small quantities, right. So, but you wouldn't feed your dog a whole bowl.
Exactly.
So I think we can't just take everything for where, that's what it is. We need to really do our research, and, I think that's my best advice is to.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. Actually, that's what I'm trying to do, to open the minds of pet parents, because things are not white or black. There's shades in between, and something that might be good for a dog might not be good for another dog. So it all comes down to listening to your dog, to observing your dog, and to knowing in general and connected to their nature what's good for them.
For sure. And one last thing I want to add, Marie, is let your dog be a dog. Let them eat poop. Let them get let them get muddy, and let them get dirty, and let them express those instincts. So right now, after we hang up, I'm gonna go take Allie in the woods for a hike.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
For at least 2 hours, we'll be in there, and I'm gonna be letting her express her instincts, run, trot, chase after chipmunks. She never catches the chipmunk, right? And I wouldn't want her to kill the chipmunk, because I think all lives matter. But she chases it, and you see it's kind of like watching a cheetah try to chase down prey. That survival instinct comes out of her, and she's like going super fast, and that adrenaline's pumping, which is good for her, and she needs to do that. And it produces something in the brain called oxytocin, which is the love chemical, which can be anti-cancer, anti-aging, reduce stress. So, we need to let them be dogs. And, I feed her poop. I feed her poop from my vet's dogs. Did you do that?
Yeah, that's something I also wanted to ask you. What's the whole deal with poop and Allie, and what's going on, Peter?
Well, she had IBD years ago. She had IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease, and she had leaky gut. So she had all these food sensitivities and diarrhea, and she was in and out of the hospital and on antibiotics. And so she almost died. She was so sick. And so my vet, who is doing one of the best in the country, I think, in my eyes, she pioneered fecal transplants for dogs and cats, the first to do this in the world. And she was looking at, what do dogs do in the wild? They eat poop. Dogs eat poop. But most dogs today are over vaccinated. They're fed kibble. They're pesticides are applied on their backs. So they're not healthy, and you wouldn't want to feed their poop. You want to feed a dog healthy donor poop her dogs are organically raised, non-GMO. They're living in a green home, no chemicals in the house or outside on the lawn. They're really eating organic, raw, fresh foods, and they're thriving. And so she takes their poop and she gives it to sick animals, right? As well as orally. So every day, Allie gets a little tiny piece of poop, and I just pop it in her throat. But
one sip at a time. No, that's interesting.
There's a lot of bacteria in that poop. There's a lot of bacteria. So you can feed a probiotic, but there might be only 7 to 10 strains in that probiotic. That doesn't begin to cover what's in the gut, right? In here there's hundreds and hundreds of microbes in species, and 1,000 subspecies. Science we're not even there. We can't even understand yet what's fully in there. So when dogs eat poop, they're basically, they can do it because they enjoy it. They like the taste. They can also do it because their guts are missing something inside. Their gut is yeah. So I'm not suggesting you feed your dog, you let them eat, any old poop. It's got to be
exactly. Any is not good. It depends.
And so, that completely healed her gut, completely healed her gut. Her poops are perfect. Perfect. It went from being watery, bloody diarrhea to being formed and just beautiful, and they just crumble away. Like it should be, right? But it's a very out there concept. But again,
I know.
it goes back to honoring them for who they are and trying to understand them. So I hope that one day we all can wrap our heads around that idea and, you know, not just use fecal transplants as, you know, but use it proactively. You know, she'll always get poop because the fact is she's going to be 11 in 1 month. She's going to be
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Sorry, no, 2 months. In 2 months, she'll be 11 years old. But she looks like she looks and acts like she's 7 or 8.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
Thank you. Because of things like ozone and cannabis and poop and
all this weird stuff, guys.
all this weird stuff that, you know, is good for them. But anyway, that's that, and that's what I want to leave you guys with. And I hope you really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. It's been a great interview with a lot of value. Where can people find you, Peter? Tell us about your group, your fan page, or where can they find you?
So I have a Facebook group called Allie's Canine Cancer Crew, and it started as a group for people who have dogs with cancer, as a support group, a community, but it kind of evolved into a small community for people to interact and share their raw feeding journeys, and even people that feed kibble are welcome, because I don't judge anybody. Everybody's in a different situation, and we'll always want to help you on how to make that bowl better. We can't isolate people and make them feel bad for the situations they're in. We need to, if we're gonna spark change, we need to meet people where they're at. You know, I started by cracking a raw egg over my kibble, but if somebody tried to say, you know, no, you need to do this, you need to feed all raw, it's all or nothing mindset, they're going to get discouraged, they're going to get scared, they're going to get overwhelmed, and they may never add anything to the bowl. So baby steps, and, you know, always hopefully improve the bowl to the point where it's all fresh food. But if you have multiple dogs, it's not always affordable. Earlier you said that it's more expensive to feed raw here. It really depends. I live, you know, in more of a country-ish area, and I'm in the woods, and I have a gun range down the road where veterans hunt, and it's a sportsman club. And I walked in there one day and I said, I really would like, you know, the deer scraps for my dog. And they gave me enough deer meat to feed her all winter. So
oh, wow.
I'm going to eat for free all winter. And it's really good quality deer meat. So, I mean, I had to cut it up myself. It was more work, but I'm exchanging time for money. You know, it's worth it. And you can't.
But it's about being creative, right? Like thinking about other options. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I think that's important. You can make it work. If you have a lot of dogs, they don't need to eat every day. They don't need to eat 2 meals every day or 3 meals every day, unless there's medical issues. You know, some dogs need that, but a healthy dog can go a day without eating, you know, yeah. or you can skip a meal, you know, like I said, go hungry. Like, it's going to make them live longer. The less you eat, the longer you live. So, obviously there's a really fine line between starvation and malnourishment and intermittent fasting. So if you're walking a line there, but again, it goes back to honoring them for who they are. Unfortunately we're killing our planet, we're killing our animals, you know, and we need to really start thinking about what we're doing, the long-term effects, you know, of and just doing stuff like this, you know, and you know, we have to be looking at the big picture, like you said in the beginning.
That's right. That's right. Well, Peter, thank you. Thank you so much. Guys, you know where to contact Peter on Facebook. And Peter, again, thank you so much. This is super, super interesting and very important for pet parents all over the world. So thank you, guys.
Hope it didn't scare anybody.
No. Thank you so much.